Hello and welcome to the channel again. This is Sam trying to spin to win on Zwift. Well, with the World Tour about to start in just a few days, these are exciting times indeed.
Yes! That's awesome!
By the time this video comes out, many of you will already have completed the classification stage. And I am very jealous, since I'm not going to do it until this Thursday. Which gives me a lot of time to ponder how much this is going to hurt.
You are soft, weak!
Well, yes, guilty as charged. But I'm gonna still give it a good go, and I hope you're getting as fired up for this tour as I am.
Are you ready for pain? Are you ready for suffering?
And I must say, I'm especially ready, since I was not able to participate in the last tour, Watopia. I'd been fighting some sort of bug for what felt like months, and I didn't think 9 or 10 days of really intense racing was the best way to get over it. And knowing as it was at the time, I think I made the right decision. But it's actually only in the last week or two that my form has started to pick up. So, really looking forward to this tour. Hope I'm gonna do well. I know there's gonna be lots of ups, a lot of down, but mostly just a lot of pain.
Oh, pain, pain, pain.
So, while I know the classification stage has already started, and a few of you have already completed it, lucky you, I still wanted to put together a brief preview of this tour ahead of the real start, if you will, this coming Saturday. Hopefully some of you will find that useful. And for any new viewers to the channel, or for people just new to FRR, I also wanted to put together some thoughts on why I think FRR is such a good race series. The best race series on Zwift, in my humble opinion at least. I've done some additional videos on this, so you can certainly check them out if you want. Then, I also wanted to go over some of the changes and improvements that FRR Race Control is putting in place for this tour Watopia. Hopefully that'll be of interest to you as well. And finally, I wanted to briefly go through the parkour for this tour to see what we're gonna face over this 9 days. Yes, 9 days of hard, intense racing.
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Yes, and the only clip I can think of that does this justice for how Mr. FRR Race Control is feeling when he's putting together this parkour is... I do hope you enjoyed this preview, and just like the last time I raced in the FRR Tour, I'll also produce a daily vlog of my own progress to see how I'm getting on, hopefully telling a story throughout the 9 days of racing. Each vlog will include a quick review of the course I'm about to face, then a race recap of how I did, and finally I'll also include a recap or a review of the course that you're gonna face the next day. So hopefully if you get a chance to watch it, it will then help you to prepare for the following day. Anyway, if you do like this kind of content, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That'd be much appreciated. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get on with the rest of the video. So, the question is, what is FRR?
Yes. What the hell is it?
Well, it is a race series on Zwift created by Mr. Richard Vale that has grown in popularity over the last couple of years. And while I'm still relatively new to FRR, my understanding is that many people keep coming back to these competitions time after time, which I think is a great sign.
Yes, very good.
The standout features of FRR is that they are multi-day events, ranging from 7 to 8 days all the way up to 21 days. So they provide a much stiffer challenge than many other race formats on Zwift.
Oh, this is so hard!
The races are also generally longer, most over an hour or so. And each day there are multiple time slots for the same race, so that people in different locations around the globe can find a time that suits them. Another key feature is the way that the riders are classified. Instead of using the older Cat A through Cat E categories, or even the more recent Zwift racing scores, FRR actually uses 10 different categories, all with names based on different peppers. The hotter the pepper, the stronger the rider. It goes all the way from mild bell peppers to super hot capsaicin peppers. These pepper names are abbreviated, as you can see in the second column here, and if you cycle around Zwift, you may run into riders that have these abbreviations in their names, which is a requirement for racing in FRR to ensure that the other riders in your race know what category you're in. I've also included an indication of what the velo scores of the riders are likely to be for these categories, but please note this is currently not a one-to-one relationship here, but it should at least give you an indication of the strength of the riders in the various FRR bell pepper category. So, how does classification in FRR actually work? Well, FRR Race Control has tinkered with this over the years, but he used a combination of factors in the last tour Watopia, and as best I can tell, it seems to have worked really, really well. So, the first thing is that all riders that want to participate have to complete a classification ride. And that is actually the ITT on the Everything Bagel course that is currently going on, and your last opportunity to do that ride is this coming Thursday. Please note that your time on this ITT is very, very important. It does count towards all the various competitions, such as GC, sprint points, climb points, etc. So, in addition to just being the classification race, it is really, really important to you, if you want to compete in these categories, to just do your best. And if you try to sandbag the ITT, for example, to perhaps get classified in a lower category, don't do it. It's not worth it. As you will see in a second, there are a lot of factors that FRR Race Control can look at to make sure you still end up in the correct category. And as such, if you do try to sandbag, you get a bad time, you may still get categorized in your correct category, but now you have a really, really bad time that you're gonna have to kind of deal with for the rest of the tour. So,
don't be that guy.
Once your classification race is completed, FRR Race Control will check the time and will use a bunch of other metrics, such as your Zwift categorization, Cat A, Cat B, Cat C, etc., as well as your Zwift racing score and your velo racing score if you have one. Other metrics such as 20-minute power, 5-minute power, etc. will also be used. As such, if you actually try to sandbag your classification ride, that will likely show up when you're compared against these metrics. So again, don't do it, because you're most likely gonna get correctly classified anyway at a higher category than what you try to achieve by sandbagging. And such, I think the overall system works almost like a categorization floor to make sure that riders are not categorized too low, which I think is a great idea. Again, if you try to sandbag, you're probably gonna get correctly categorized anyway. And again, as I mentioned before, you now have a really, really bad time from your ITT to deal with compared to the other guys in your category that gave it their best shot. So that may be really, really difficult to come back for or from if you're going for the competitions. So again,
don't be that guy.
So after the classification race and all the various checks and balances that goes on after that, It is then time for FRR Race Control to divvy up the racers into the 10 pepper FRR categories. And he doesn't actually share what percentage bands he uses for this calculation. But for example, he may decide for To Watopia, based on the number of riders and their performance, that the top 5% of riders will be in the CAP division, with the next 10 or 15% say in the DRA division, and so on and so forth. It should be said that during the tour itself, there are also riders that will be either moving up or down, depending on how they do. But the idea is that the rigorous classification work done up front will minimize these movements as much as possible. Now, this is a lot of work for FRR Race Control, or at least it must be, I can't imagine. But the proof of the pudding is in the eating, and as best I can tell, the feedback from various riders on Discord, etc., from To Watopia was that it worked very well. So yes, there will be anomalies, there will be outliers. It's inevitable when you have 1,000 or 2,000 riders. But in general, I think this is a very, very fair classification system. And my hat's off to FRR Race Control for designing this so well.
There is also a very cool mechanic called EGAP to ensure riders are not disadvantaged if they can't make the race with the most competitors, which is normally the fastest race. You can see the full rules on the screen now, but in summary, you compare your finishing time to that of the fastest rider in your category in your specific race, rather than the fastest time overall in that race from all the races on that day. That means that even if your race was the slowest of the day, you can still compete on the general classification. This system is not perfect, but in my opinion, it is a lot better than forcing people that want to compete on GC to race in the fastest race of the day, which for many is just logistically not an option. And like regular live races, there are a number of competitions. You can see them all on the screen now, and just stop the video if you want more details. And perhaps the most important thing, standout feature, is the community. There are now other similar race series on Zwift, such as the Racing Tour, for example, but I think the community feel is an absolute standout feature of FRR. And Mr. Vale, aka FRR Race Control, puts in an absolute monster shift during these race series to ensure they run smoothly and that issues are dealt with ASAP. I honestly don't know where the man finds the time, and of course he also races himself. The guy is an absolute machine.
Is he nuts? I don't know.
There's also a very, very handy roadbook produced for each race that you should definitely check out. It provides you with all the information you need for each stage, what the course is, what sprints are in place, etc.
So, what is new or changed in the World Tour compared to To Watopia, which finished a few weeks ago? Well, if I look at some of the changes that were made between previous tours, there are really no major changes here to worry about. And that's a really good thing. That means that the system seems to be working pretty well, I think. Or that's my assumption anyway. But there are a few things to highlight.
First, there will only be one classification race, a single individual time trial, compared to To Watopia, where there were 2 or 3 classification races. I think this is a good change, and hopefully FRR Race Control will still get the information he needs to provide accurate rider assessment. Second, there will be more of a review of riders that may have overachieved on the classification individual time trial to ensure they're not moved up to too high of a category. Another good change. Third, there are a couple of changes to race time slots, and if of interest to you, you can read the specifics on the screen now. And fourth, unlike earlier tours, there is no registration once the classification is completed. That is, you can no longer join the tour late or mid-tour, if you will. That surely makes sense to me, and as stated here, it will also reduce the workload for FRR Race Control.
All right, now let's marvel together and shake our heads as we look at the parkour that we will face over these 9 days of hard racing in the World Tour. Man, whew, why do I do this?
Since I didn't do the tour Watopia, it is hard for me to compare that parkour against this one. But at a first glance, I don't think this is the hardest set of stages I've seen for an FRR tour, but it's certainly not the easiest either. A couple of things jumped out at me. First, the ITTs are all quite long, all 3 of them. And 2 of them have quite a few meters of elevation. For me personally, I don't do so well on ITTs, so this doesn't make me jump up and down with joy. But on the other hand, some people,
You guys are nuts.
do like ITTs. And if I'm honest with myself, it is a great leveler for the tour and will allow people with strong diesel engines to put some hurt into the more explosive riders out there. At least these ITTs look interesting to me in that the courses are all quite bumpy, which again, at least to me, makes it more bearable than a flat grind or a steady uphill grind. To be honest, I still have nightmares of the ITT up to Chalet Reynard a few tours ago. I hated that one.
I hate it! I hate it!
Second, although my memory may be failing me, certainly possible, probably likely in fact, but all of the stages look quite long and all have a decent amount of elevation gained. But on the positive side, none of them have a truly massive climb like the Alpe de Zwift or Mount Ventoux. Yes, the Innsbruk stage does have a serious climb, but that is around 20 minutes and not 40 minutes plus. Even the Queen stage doesn't have any major climbs, although, as we know from a previous FRR tour, the Royal Pump Room is no joke, that is for sure. So overall, I really like the look of this parkour. As usual, there's something for all rider types in here, and I think FRR Race Control has done a good job. Chapeau. Now, let's have a quick look at each stage. I will go into much more detail on my daily vlogs, but I wanted to at least provide a short summary of each stage in this preview video. The first stage, the classification stage I have talked about earlier, is an individual time trial that takes place on the Everything Bagel course. For those of us that do ZRL or Zwift Racing League, this is a bit of déjà vu, as we did this course last week. And I am not looking forward to doing it again, especially as an ITT. And something you need to pay close attention to when looking at these slides is the use of custom finishes. In fact, this ITT is slightly longer than 1 lap of the Everything Bagel course. As you can see from the red arrow and the finish sign, the actual finish is almost at the top of the NY-Com on the 2nd lap. I bet a few people have been caught out by this already. As I mentioned, I don't like ITTs, but at least this one is constantly up and down, so will hopefully keep me focused on managing my effort rather than staying constantly in a very tight watt range throughout the whole race. For me, I will just try to go just under my FTP on the flatter sections, push slightly above FTP on the climbs, in particular the larger climbs, to try to gain some time, and then try to get some rest on the descents. For the really fast folk out there, it will take around 55 minutes, give or take a few. For us mortals, you're looking at least over an hour, and possibly an hour and 15, an hour and 20 minutes for the lower classifications. Again, I cannot tell you how jealous I am of the people that have already completed this. Well, at least the tour starts with a bang. The second stage takes place on the Zwift Grand Fondo 2022 course, where we will do the first 55 kilometers or so with a custom finish at the Titans Grove Reverse KOM. I think this is one of the easier stages of this tour. Yes, it's quite long, but the elevation gain is not that big, and there are no significant climbs here. While many legs will be fresh for this race for sure, I don't think we'll see massive time gaps opening up. Yes, people will push on the sprints and push quite hard on the 3 smaller climbs, but again, I have to wonder whether there will be huge separations caused on this stage. Time will tell if I'm right, of course. The third stage is for sure harder than stage 2. It is another long one, and we will do most of the London Pretzel course here. But there is a custom finish again at the top of Box Hill, so we don't complete a full lap. Almost, but not quite. This one is flat until it isn't, and Fox Hill and then Box Hill are not easy climbs. This stage will cause some separation for sure, and we will have to wait to see if the stronger climbers are able to shake off the heavier riders here to gain some time. I'm personally looking forward to stage 4, as I've actually not yet raced on the Brea-kfast and Grits course. This one is shorter than the previous stages, but do keep in mind that we will do almost 2 laps of the course, with a custom finish towards the end of the second lap. This one is for the puncheurs and rollers among you, and while I don't see major separations happening here, given the many sprints involved and a lot of short, sharp efforts likely required, if you're not able to stay in the front group, well, you could be in a bit of bother here. Stage 5 is unfortunately another individual time trial, and, well, this is not going to be my favorite stage of the tour, that is for sure. We will do almost 2 laps of the Neokyo all-nighter course, with a custom finish just after the rooftop climb on the second stage. While there is some elevation over the 43 kilometers we will race, most of the course is quite flat, so I can already tell you I am going to struggle massively to mentally keep myself entertained and push through the pain on this one. Likely one to forget for me. The 6th stage is another stage with 2 distinct parts to it. We will do 1 full lap of the Innsbruk after party course, and as you can see, the first 30 kilometers is quite flat, apart from 3 short efforts up the leg snapper. However, the last 7 kilometers of the course is a long, steady climb. As I mentioned earlier, this is the biggest climb of the tour and will take over 20 minutes for most riders. There will be separation on this climb for sure. Again, the question is how much the climbers will gain on the heavier, more powerful riders. This one is gonna hurt for sure, especially as it's the 5th day of racing in a row. After a well-earned rest day, we're right back at it. Stage 7 is another tough stage, that is for sure. We will do 2 full laps of the Petit Douleur course, but please keep in mind, the lead-in on the first lap is over 11 kilometers long and also includes a climb up the Petit. So in total, we will actually do the Petit 3 times. Yes, you heard me right, 3 times on this stage. Again, I am sure a few people will be caught out by this lead-in, as it's certainly not clear from this course profile. I have a bit of a love-hate relationship with the Petit. I have done it so many times by now that I'm a bit sick and tired of it. But on the other hand, I do like a good 5-minute effort, so perhaps it balances out. I don't know as I want to do it 3 times in the same race though. I think this stage will cause some big separations, as people will be dropped on the Petit for sure. Maybe even one of the more crucial stages of the tour, but we'll have to wait and see about that. Stage 8, the Queen stage, is a bit of a doozy. We will do 2 full laps of the Royal Pump Room course. There are no large climbs here, but the total elevation is still almost 1,000 meters over the 56 kilometer course. As you can see, it is constantly up and down, and unless you're able to quickly recover from short, sharp efforts, you're really gonna struggle on this course. Personally, I like this Queen stage a lot better than something like the Quatch Quest, where you have to climb up out the Zwift in the end, but it will still be a formidable challenge, that is for sure. The last stage, stage 9, is unfortunately another individual time trial. Pretty cruel, I think, to finish the tour with an ITT, but we've already established many times that Mr. FRR Race Control,
He's evil!
there are a lot of smaller climbs in this stage, and I mean a lot. You will either be climbing, descending, or preparing for the next climb. So it will be really hard to settle into a steady rhythm during this ITT. For me, while I'm certainly not looking forward to this stage, not at all, again, the constant changes will keep it somewhat mentally stimulating at least. So hopefully I can forget about the pain in my legs. Wishful thinking, I know. Interesting course, and a bit of something for all rider types here, I think. And if I'm honest, a pretty good end to end the World Tour. Well, chapeau to you if you watched this far. Much appreciated. I hope the content was useful, and if so, please share with other FRR enthusiasts. As mentioned earlier, I hope to produce a daily vlog of my races during this World Tour, using the same format as previous tours, where I'll go over a quick review of the parkour for the race, a race recap, and then a course review of the following day's stage. My hope is that you can then be somewhat better prepared for the following stage, if you listen to the words of this madman, that is. So, if you like this content, please consider subscribing, and if you have comments and suggestions on what I should perhaps change, please let me know. Always looking for constructive feedback. We will end the video here. I wish you the very best of luck with your World Tour FRR journey. And if you see me out there in the pen, please give me a wave. This is Sam, trying to spin to win on Zwift, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.